This is the story of Bernie Madoff, the man who stole over $60 billion, shattered thousands of lives, and exposed the cracks in the financial world. First, he was trusted by the rich, respected by Wall Street, and admired by regulators. But behind the polished image and the quiet charm was a lie so massive it became the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Bernard Lawrence Madoff was born on April 29, 1938, in Queens, New York. His father Ralph was a plumber turned stockbroker, and his mother Sylvia even registered as a broker herself too. May sound like the family had a strong hold on their finances, but in reality, their financial life was often rocky. Still, young Bernie was ambitious. He studied political science at Hofstra University, then attended law school briefly, but dropped out to pursue something more lucrative: Wall Street. With $5,000 in savings and help from family, Bernie started his own brokerage in 1960 called Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities. At first, he played by the rules. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud. However, he would eventually launch into the spotlight as one of Wall Street's most admired figures. By the 1980s, Madoff's firm had become a respected name in finance. He was a pioneer of using computers to match buy and sell orders, which was a huge breakthrough at the time. He even served as a chairman of the Nasdaq in 1990, 1991, and 1993. Madoff was seen as a Wall Street insider who had earned his place through innovation and integrity. Clients trusted him with their fortunes, and he promised steady, consistent returns, often around 10 to 12% each year. In a world where markets rise and fall unpredictably, Madoff seemed to defy gravity. But behind the scenes, something dangerous was going on. And the higher he climbed, the more dangerous the scheme became. It turns out, Madoff wasn't investing the money at all. Instead, he was running a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investment strategy where returns paid to early investors are not generated by profit, but instead from funds contributed by new investors. Here's how Bernie made this work. First, clients would wire money to Madoff's firm. They believed that it was being invested in stocks through a legitimate strategy known as a split strike conversion. On paper, it looked safe and sophisticated. His investors believed their money was being allocated across blue chip companies, with options used to hedge risk. That was the illusion. In reality, the money went into a single JP Morgan Chase bank account, not into any brokerage platform. Madoff didn't make a single trade for his investment advisory clients. Instead, he used incoming money from new investors to pay fake returns to existing ones. This was all a classic Ponzi model and pyramid scheme. Monthly statements were manually created to reflect non-existent trades. These statements showed consistent returns, often in the 10 to 12% range, regardless of market conditions. Madoff's team even backdated trades to match desired results. The last piece that kept this all together was that there were no internal audits from qualified firms. The auditor listed on official documents was named Freiling and Horowitz. It was a tiny firm operating outside a strip mall in New York. It had just one active accountant, which is an enormous red flag that regulators failed to notice. And yet, the setup was brilliant in its deception. His offices looked the part, a sleek, professional setup with real-time tickers and busy staff, most of whom had no idea what was really going on. His reputation gave him cover. Clients believed in him because others did. All they needed was social proof. Many investors were told they were lucky to be allowed in. That exclusivity gave the illusion of security and elite access. Madoff also had deliberately avoided attention. He didn't offer sky-high returns. Instead, he promised consistency and stability. He targeted the wealthy, including celebrities, hedge funds, and even Holocaust survivors, one of which was Elie Wiesel. and Madoff was so twisted that he even targeted his charity. Bernie's illusion was locked in, but every lock eventually starts to crack, and by the early 2000s, Madoff's magic began drawing in the wrong kind of attention. Throughout the early 2000s, some whistleblowers began to question Madoff's results. Most notably, Harry Markopoulos, a financial analyst. He submitted multiple reports to the SEC, outlining why Madoff's returns were mathematically impossible. His was one of the biggest keys to finally uncovering this massive lie. Harry even quoted in one report saying, "Madoff Securities is officially the world's largest Ponzi scheme." According to Markopoulos, the probability that Madoff's trades were legitimate was less than 1 in a billion. He continued to make multiple attempts over nearly a decade to alert the SEC, submitting detailed evidence in 2000, 2001, 2005, and 2007. He pointed out discrepancies in trading volumes, returns that defied market behavior, and audit irregularities. Meanwhile, other skeptics began to emerge, but many stayed silent. More and more evidence began to come out, and all eyes were on the SEC to make its move. But even with the growing material substance, the SEC still failed to act. Madoff's charm, influence, and carefully controlled image once again kept him protected. Madoff didn't run his scheme with flashy promises or aggressive ads. He did it with trust. And with that trust, regulators kept on giving him the benefit of the doubt. That was until the year 2008.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Two-year no yields went from 190 to 166.
Down 1.7% here, a loss of 37 points or so. Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets.
Because we're now down 43%.
The 2008 global financial crisis hit, and as you might have guessed, panic spread rapidly. Investors wanted to pull their money out all at once from Madoff's firm. The thing is, Madoff didn't actually have it, and there was no more new money coming in, which meant that there was no more illusion to maintain the scheme. On December 11th, 2008, Bernie Madoff decided to confess this all to his sons, before it went public. His sons would then turn him into the FBI, and he was arrested the next day. In March of 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He famously admitted in court it was all just one big lie. On June 29th, 2009, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Thousands of investors lost their life savings. Charities collapsed. Families were ruined. Even Madoff's own family wasn't spared. His son Mark died by suicide in 2010. His other son Andrew died of cancer in 2014. Then 7 years later, after Andrew's death, Bernie died in prison in 2021 at the age of 82. Bernie Madoff wasn't just a con artist, he was a mirror held up to Wall Street. He showed how far people will go to chase returns, and how much trust can be weaponized when no one asks questions. But the lesson here isn't just about fraud, it's about the importance of transparency, due diligence, and financial education. Remember, scams don't just target the rich, they target anyone who isn't paying attention. And that's why this channel exists. We help you understand your money, avoid the financial traps, and build real lasting wealth. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell. We post weekly reels and new videos on Fridays. Thank you all for watching. Remember to always save smart and invest smarter.